Just one more addendum on the 4-point transform before moving on to gradient stops. And I just wanted to mention that there is also the ability to transform from a brush. So let's just grab a copy of a brush somewhere. Howler has a bunch of pre-built brushes that are based on custom brushes. Not all brushes are based on custom brushes, but quite a few are. So let's see, here's one here with these flowers. Let's just see what that looks like. There it is. We got that brush. And not sure what we're going to get, but let's run this and see what happens. Okay, there's the brush. We got from brush, transform from brush. We want to rotate that and see what happens. TR dot rotate points 45. Let's see. Happens again. We rotated the brush, and let's do a warp on that, and also see what happens. So, oh, and there's also one optional parameter here as not on by default, but use alpha. Let's turn that on. True. And let's do a little warping as well. Let's get rid of that stuff, and let's do not sure what we'll do, but let's see. Alright, and run it. And there we go. We just warped that brush into a funny shape. So that is just some of the things we can do with the transform thing. So let's move on to gradient stops briefly. And I'm going to get rid of most of this. I might keep that width and height. And I'll get rid of that. And let's declare a new, let's see, G as new VB gradient. And let's see what this can do. Gradient stops. The gradient object lets you render gradients, and it's based on gradient stops. Basically, to explain that, as an example, now this is not based on our internal gradients. It's another thing, a new thing. But if you look at this gradient here, every so often there's this color where there's a specific color we entered, and you can move it around and enter new colors, that kind of thing. But everything in between is like interpolated, but these are specific values we inserted there. So that's basically what we're gonna do here. Say if this was a range from 0 to 255, this stop would be at 0 and this stop would be at 255, and all these would be the in-betweens. So let's just do that. Let's get rid of this. Let's go to g.add stop, and this has to be a color object. So let's create a color object as well. Dim C as new VB color, and we've covered these before. We'll do color.set RGB. Let's see, color.set color. That's it. 255, 0, we'll set that color at a specific time. It wants a time. This time will be at 0. This time could be anything. It could be 0 to 1, anything in between those. But since we're using a physical coordinate system, like we want to fill this whole screen with values, we're gonna use pixels as our time. So we basically need to know how we're going to create a linear gradient, and we need to know how long that gradient will be. So let's let's just demonstrate this, and then we'll do that next. Let's add another set of stops here, and we'll add a stop at, say, 100, and we'll make that yellow, and we'll do the same, and we'll make this one green, and we'll make it that at 200, and we'll do a final one maybe at this one will be, whoops, that should have been 255, and this one will be, I guess, blue-green, and that'll be at 300, and might as well go all the way with it and do blue 255 at 400. So we're going to have a range of 0 to 400, basically covering 400 pixels. 0 will be our start point on our linear gradient, and I guess 400 will be where we end up. So, or at least it'll be 400 pixels in distance that it covers. Now we'll want to calculate that later, but we'll do this as an example for now. Let's do g.render circular. Now let's do render linear, and we'll give it an x position and a y position. Say 100, 100, and comma. Let's see, x2 will be 500. No, let's do 500, 100, whatever. And let's render that. And there we go. This is since we did a linear line with y both being on 100, we get this line going across there. And let me get rid of this flower. And basically it did pretty much what we expected it to do. Now we could have given this a different set of coordinates. It's going to be like 400, and this would have been more diagonal in nature, and that sort of thing. But when we come back, we'll talk about how to calculate the this line where we know how far apart we should space our stops. But since I'm here, I'll do this as a circular as well. Dot render circular, and do that. And just like we expected, we got a circular gradient. Let's do a couple more. Dot render sweep. I think there's another parameter here. No, that's not it. Let's see. But that's a sweep, and there's one more gradient type, I believe. Render twirl. This one has another parameter somewhere. Let's see. Twirl, twirl, twirl. No. Okay, let's see. X1, Y1, X2, Y2. That actually might be a bug. Let's see what happens. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to put that through the beta team and see if that's not right, because that should have had an extra parameter. But you get the idea. We're rendering these gradients, and when we come back, we'll look at a few more things we can do with that.